everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Royal Watcher podcast. I'm Saad Salman. I'm the fan writer of the Royal Watcher, a royal commentator, and a royal contributor for Elle.com. Today, I'm joined by a very special guest for an episode on the Dutch royal tour of the Caribbean. Go ahead.
Sorry. Hi, my name is Brigitte, and I have the TikTok page Brigitte Marie, and I'm from the Netherlands. So I'm very excited to talk about the Dutch royals.
Thank you so much for coming on today. We're both so excited to have you on.
Thank you, and me too.
Yeah, so for you, I mean, we're just talking about it, that this has been kind of a really different type of tour because usually we see only the king and queen going on these sorts of trips to the Dutch Caribbean territories, but this was the first time they were joined by the Princess of Orange, Amalia, who has finally come of age, and she's on these big tours with her parents now.
Yeah, it's really exciting. I wasn't expecting her to join so soon, especially not for a tour this long, but I'm really happy she did. It was really something I looked forward to a lot. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in the Netherlands, it's a bit different than we see in the British royal family. I mean, I'm Canadian and I see them coming with their children to parts of Canada for years, and since they're really small. But in the Dutch royal family, they don't seem to take their children on tours when they're younger.
No, they don't. No, and I don't feel like there's a very much like that people really want them to. So there's not much question for them to do it. So yeah, it was that like I said, I didn't expect her to go as soon as she did.
Yeah, because as some people know that the crown princess has been having quite a difficult time of it of recent months.
Yeah, yeah, she I mean, how are you gonna call it? Like house arrest. I like to compare it to lockdown, right? With COVID, she's literally not allowed to leave the house. She was supposed to move to Amsterdam, where she's studying, just live with friends in a house, rented house, but she is now currently living back, with her parents in the city of The Hague, because she's being threatened by the mafia, which is kind of a problem in our country. It's like a drugs mafia kind of thing, and there are reasons to assume that they wanted to, well, harm her. So
Oh my.
she's under like heavy protection right now. So she can't leave the house basically.
That must be so difficult because I think last year we saw all those pictures of her going on her first day of university, and then I found it a bit odd that pictures of her accommodation were released on the internet because that should have been a bit of a security risk. And when the threats started coming out, it made me feel so sorry for her to be struggling at an age when she should have kind of privacy and the space to find herself and have some private time before she takes on the big mantle.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, like, it was kind of expected that she'd be photographed on her first day of university. We've had pictures of her first day of well, the first school she went to is like a really little like child of, I don't know, 6 7. They skipped over the high school, but the university thing is kind of tradition. We also had that with Willem Alexander, with his mother Beatrix, with Juliana also went to university. So yeah, that was kind of a tradition, and I guess everyone just sort of knew where she was going to go to uni. So yeah, that was before it all went down, I have to say. Quite soon after that, the news came out that she had to go in I want to say hiding, but yeah, we know where the palace is, but it's better protected
Yeah.
than the uni house. Yeah.
So, is there an expectation in the Netherlands that their heirs to the throne will be educated within the country? Because, I mean, with all the security risks that have come out, I'm seeing a lot of people saying she should move to either the UK or to the US, and she'd have a much more kind of anonymous life there, and she could live much freely than she is in the Netherlands.
I don't think there's an expectation so much as that Amalia herself, I think, just really wanted to study in Amsterdam, right? Like it's all her friends would probably have moved to Amsterdam.
Of
It's
course.
kind of yeah, it's kind of like the popular study spot, that or Leiden, which is where her father studied, but kind of I want to say the elite Dutch, which I mean, Crown Princess is definitely a member of. Um,
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's probably what she wanted herself, and I think that up to that point, she managed to live a pretty private life where people would have left her alone. And also, Amsterdam is a city that has most of the famous Dutch people in it, so Dutch people are kind of used to seeing. I mean, Amsterdam people are kind of used to seeing famous people, so it's not something that they'll stare at. So I thought it was a pretty good choice. Also, personally, I thought it was a good. I think it's good to go and study, these are such formative years, right? When you go to college or university or something, and
Of course.
that in the country where you'll be queen of, I thought that was a good choice, and I didn't expect this to happen. Also, don't think it would actually help if she moved abroad because yeah, the mafia's gonna find her in Wales too, right? Or England or the US.
Of
Like,
course.
I genuinely don't think that really matters. But they asked her during the press conference, like, if she's considering going to study abroad, and she said that she's not allowed to answer that question. So we don't really know if that's going to happen or if it would make a difference. We don't know.
Yeah. Which is probably for the best given the security risks surrounding her these days.
Yeah, it's good she's not answering those questions.
Yeah, and at the same time, what on top of all of this, we've had some really disgusting comments over the past few weeks about her appearance as well, to kind of
Yeah,
add.
yeah, that that's bad. I mean, I constantly, I sort of, my little sister is the same age as her. So I feel like I constantly sort of compare her to I mean, she doesn't like it when I call her little, but she's my little
Definitely.
sister. So I'm
Yeah,
constantly like, what if they would say this to my sister? Like that's kind of how I end up feeling a little protective of Amalia, the way I don't really have with any other royal. I mean, except for the other kids, right? I mean, if someone's body shaming Charlotte, but I constantly am like, come on, you guys, she's 19. Come on, like grown people, 30, 40-year-olds, also famous Dutch people, just saying, shouldn't she exercise more? Doesn't she feel uncomfortable in her own body? Like, the reason that she's feeling uncomfortable probably is because you are saying these things. So
of
please.
course.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's really frustrating. So
yeah,
it's in the news in the Netherlands quite a bit that she's being body shamed. Yeah. It's been like that for years, to be honest. Even when she was like, I don't know, 8, that was already happening.
and I'm afraid that it probably won't go away anytime soon, but it's kind of horrible to see it so normalized in today's day and age.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say that at the same time, there's also kind of like pretty loud protests against it. Like a lot of people are speaking up against it, so that's good. But at the same time, like she's 19, she has a phone, right? She's bound to read that sort of stuff. So even if it's just one comment, I mean, I get hate comments on my TikTok sometimes. I know you can have 20 nice comments and one bad one, and you'll remember the bad one. So
Of course.
yeah, and I get like, I don't know, like 50 comments a day, and she she gets thousands, right? So, and she's 19.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's pretty rough.
it must be quite horrible for her.
Yeah, I think so. Like I honestly, when I watch her on these tours, and not just this tour, but also like just normal visits, King's Day. Obviously, she's been doing King's Day for a couple of years now, which is I want to celebrate the King's birthday, in April. Um, I do think she looks very quite confident. Like obviously she's 19, right? So she's a bit shy and a bit, but she looks like she's having a good time and she's enjoying meeting these people. I don't feel like she's hating her life and it's like I don't want to be here. Not at all. Like I feel like she looks like she's having a good time and she wants to really. That's the impression I always get of Amalia, is that she's just so eager to do a good job, which I find makes her so sympathetic. Personally,
Definitely.
yeah. Like I mean that I've said this before also in TikToks, right? There are a lot of royals, her father included, to be honest, constantly just sort of not anymore, but when he was her age, kind of complain about, I don't want this life. I get all this attention. I don't want all these restrictions. And, like I can name a few who've been complaining about that. I mean, most of them, to be
Oh,
honest, like most of them. Amalia doesn't do that. And kind of, she's sort of like, in her book that came out when she turned 18, for which she was interviewed, in that book specifically, she says, I feel so honored that I get to represent my country like this. It's such a, I feel so blessed that this is that I get this chance to make a change and do my duty to my country. And like, I like it when royals have that kind of attitude where they're kind of grateful that they get this huge chance, which I think it is, right? And obviously not everyone's suited for that life, but I feel like that attitude that Amalia has, which for example Crown Princess Victoria of Sweden also has, like that just makes them so much more sympathetic and so much more fun to follow. I
Oh,
really
I
like
totally agree. Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that about her.
Definitely. I think there's this element of which they recognize their privilege and they're keen to get on
Hmm.
with the job rather than, in a sense, just wanting people to pity them for their position, which doesn't sit
Yeah.
with anyone who's paying for them, especially.
No, and it seems like especially the royals born into the institution are often the ones making these kind of complaints. Like obviously Maxima chose this life, right?
Yes,
I mean, Kate never complains about it. Kate chose that life. Leticia chose their life. So they're not the ones complaining. It's mostly the ones born in the institution who have to grow up in it, be a teenager in it. It is rough, right? It's easy to make these complaints, and I get it. I'm not even here bashing it all together because I can't really, I mean, I'm not the one who's living through that. So
of course. Yeah.
yeah, like I can't, but yeah, Amalia just doesn't she seems to just be really excited too for the times to come. Because before she was 18, we didn't really see her all that much. Like we hardly saw her, to be honest. And we've been
Yes.
seeing her more and more and more. And I feel like she's kind of just excited to play her part and actually do these things and go to the Caribbean. That's just that I find that so much fun to watch her.
Yeah. So, I mean, kind of starting off with the tour now, the
Mhm.
Dutch royal family began in Bonaire, which is one of those islands which I believe is an independent country within the Kingdom of the Netherlands.
Yeah, like let me check because I constantly keep see, so Bonaire is how do you call that in English? Municipality. So we've got the Kingdom of the Netherlands, which consists of four countries, which is the Netherlands in Europe, Aruba,
Yes.
Curacao, and Saint Martin. And like everything I'm naming is an island. Aruba, Curacao, Saint Martin. Three islands, but they're independent countries. And then we have three municipalities, which is Bonaire, Saint Eustatius, and Saba. So
Oh,
Bonaire really is like our prime minister or president actually is also the president on Bonaire.
oh,
Yeah,
okay. So, yeah. So
yeah.
they're basically a part of the external territory of the Netherlands and Europe.
Yeah, they really are. Which is
Yeah.
which is kind of funny because when we had hard lockdown, we couldn't leave the country, right? So everyone was
Yes.
vacation. Everyone was vacationing in Saba.
So how did
The
that actually turn out? Wasn't there any controversy over that?
There was a lot of controversy over that because these islands aren't like that economically strong as the mainland, right?
Of
At
course.
all, which there's a lot of attention on that for that as well during these tours. So these people they didn't have like that much capacity in the hospitals, and we were just going there vacationing and bringing COVID to them. So that was eventually closed the border, which isn't the border. So it was yeah, so we like, well, we can't go to France, so we're gonna go to Saba. That's basically what happened.
I mean,
Um,
I would not blame you.
no,
I've been in there too.
didn't do it. Not me, but a lot of people, yeah.
Yeah. So, and they basically began their tour by visiting the white slave huts and really addressing that legacy of colonialism right off the bat. We've kind of had in the past few months, the king has launched a commission into the history of the House of Orange and kind of slavery and their colonial legacy. And this was really a reflection of that, the steps they've taken in recent months.
Yeah, look, I am a very passionately no, I have this passionate opinion that I think it's good that we have the abdication tradition, as you may know, that we abdicate, our royals abdicate for their younger, because William Alexander's mother is still alive. She abdicated. And I feel like this is one of the results. coming from having younger monarchs, because Willem Alexander is a lot younger than his mother. So I feel like the moment he became king, he really started doing that sort of stuff. Like he also apologized for his own grandmother doing pretty much, no, his great grandmother pretty much doing nothing for the Jewish part of our country during the Second World War, for example. Like these sort of things, like apologizing for his own family's past and now asking for an actual research to like his family's past with slavery is such I don't know, like I'm not his biggest fan, but of that, I'm really happy that he does things like that. Also, as a historian myself, I feel like that is very interesting research. I'm actually really looking forward to the results. I'm very intrigued to see what's going to come out of it.
Yeah, I mean, really, it was quite an unprecedented step if you look at the way other kind of countries have handled their own legacy of colonialism. And we saw some people online complaining that this was kind of a step that they took really before this trip to kind of have a different reaction. But do you think people in the Netherlands or in the Caribbean territories feel the same way as kind of people in the international media have been talking about it?
No, and I think that's no, that's a statement that's literally based on nothing. Like, because they visit the Caribbean every other year, and he's been
Yes.
years now. So if that was the case, if he wanted to sort of cover up whatever or make this trip do better, he would have done this 10 years ago. Because he literally, they visit nearly every year, pretty much every year. It's thanks to COVID that it's been 3 years now. So that's a baseless statement. I really don't believe that. And as I mentioned before, he has kind of a track record of wanting to look at his own family's past and, be open and honest about that. No, I don't. And I haven't heard Dutch people actually say that. I can't speak for people in the Caribbean. I have to add that. So I don't know how they feel. But no, I don't agree.
Yes. I mean, I had a very interesting incident in my comments. There was a video that kind of went quite popular on Twitter, and there were a bunch of people from, I believe, Aruba and Saint Martin who were in the comments and saying how they were happy to see it, but then people from the US and the UK were kind of telling them, "Oh no, you should go for independence and you're
They
living."
have independence. I feel like
Yes. And I
they
found that very insulting how they were trying to enforce their own opinions onto the people who already live there.
I mean, that should definitely not happen. I understand that from a US or UK perspective, it may seem odd that people in these Caribbean parts, the royals are actually super popular there. And I'm not saying that I understand, I mean, or that I agree or whatever, but I just factually, they're very popular there. And they have been for years, especially Willem Alexander's mother, Beatrix, is like they see her as this sort of mother figure. Supposedly, again, I'm not from the Caribbean, so I'm not gonna speak for them. And I've also never been, which I would love to go. Hopefully, I'll be able to go because it's stunning there, I think. But it's a very different situation compared to Jamaica or like when William and Kate went to Jamaica, like that sort of stuff. What happened there wouldn't happen when the Dutch royals visit Curacao. Like Curacao is an independent country. They are, and they don't have to fight for independence. They've already got it. And the only thing that they've got left basically is this royal family, and they've repeatedly voted to keep them. So yeah, it's kind of up to them. I feel like that's their thing. And if they want it, then I mean the Dutch royals, the only thing that they have to do is show up most of the time in wintertime. I
Yeah,
I understand that they don't have a problem with doing that, going there every year
of
in
course.
February, right? I mean, I would do that. So yeah, I mean it's a different. I feel like the Netherlands has we have a colonial past, as most European countries, and we definitely don't always handle that in the perfect, good, right way, or as we should. I'm the first to admit to that, and I don't always agree with the way our government handles it, but it's I feel like um Americans should maybe and Brits too should educate themselves a bit more on actually what this whole situation is before they make these kind of statements. Yeah.
Exactly. No, I'm totally in agreement with that.
Hmm.
So on the evening of their first day, they attended a Taste of Bonaire cultural market with local products, gastronomy, and musical performances. And this is where I really feel that the royals shine during these evening engagements, where they have a chance to kind of interact with local culture, and they seem to be having a blast at these events.
Yeah, they always seem to be having a blast. I mean, Maxima is always having a blast. Like that's just her, that's just her
That's our
being. That's just who she is. Um, I mean, I don't know, maybe that's the Latina in her, but yeah, they're always welcomed so warmly on these islands. I feel like definitely these islands are more fond of them than us, like the Dutch people in the Netherlands. So it's like I don't know, like, and I fully expected this also with Amalia. Like, I was like, oh, it's good that she's going there because they're gonna treat her like she's gonna have so much fun.
Definitely, yeah, and it looks like she was having a blast. The next day, they were off to Aruba, where they had a really, I think, the most formal welcome of the tour. Maxima brought out a new dress and a big hat and a bunch of nice jewels. I believe that's the brooch from the Malirio Peacock Parror. And I mean, Amalia, I really like that she stayed true to her style during the tour. She didn't kind of go the full dress and hat route like her mother, and she kind of wore what she feels comfortable in.
Yeah, good for her. I mean, obviously she's a lot younger. Like, if Amalia would put that hat on, it would just be weird, right?
Yeah,
I mean, Amalia, Maxima doesn't seem like she's aging, but obviously she is. So
of course.
and I feel
Yeah,
like she's dressed to her age quite well. So that's, yeah, Amalia has her very own style, which I do like that she wears a lot of color, some
yeah.
something
I
joy.
mean, I also like that Amalia has, in a sense, and I'll talk about this a bit later as well, but it was her first tour and she was in a sense in focus, but her parents were really much the stars and she kind of stayed back and she wasn't really thrust headfirst into, okay, she has to be in the spotlight now. She's really taking her time to get into this role and learning from both of them.
I mean, I love seeing Willem Alexander and Maxima with Amalia. I mean, with all the kids, but especially with Amalia because they look so proud of her. It's
Oh yeah.
kind of really like so fun to constantly see Willem Alexander, who I think is not really as easily showing his emotions. Kind of, he constantly lets them just flow out when it comes to Amalia, like crying when she has this sort of, her first speech, and sort of he constantly just beams at her, just grinning at how he's just clearly so proud of her, which I think is really cute. And she's just sort of like a little like makes jokes to him, right? Because they were at this, I don't know, this plant, I don't know how you call it in English, that is used a lot in these skincare products. And Willem Alexander,
Aloe vera, I believe.
yeah, aloe vera, thank you. And Willem Alexander was like, "What's a scrub?" And Amalia's like, "You live with three women, and you don't," like kind of like
Yeah,
that. I feel like we kind of see these sort of banter moments that they must have at home all the time. So they clearly were they're sort of happy to show that side, which adds an extra fun layer, I think.
definitely. And evening, it seems they have even more fun. I think this was the one of the first videos in which I really had you could see that Maxima really enjoys dancing. That's where kind of her roots really shine, and you can see that Willem Alexander and Amalia also had a great time.
Yeah, this dress that Maxima's wearing, she's wearing in this video clip that sort of leaked online of her dancing, I don't think the tango, with this other man. And it's just such a nice video, but it was taken offline and sort of the royal house kind of forbid it from sharing. And she's
Oh,
literally wearing the same dress here. So it's fun because that video was taken down, but she wore it again knowing she was going to be dancing. So it's kind of
I
like,
know.
want to see me dance, here's me dance, but it's on my terms and with my consent, which I think was a fun message behind that dress, which I
Definitely.
instantly recognized. I was like, that's the dress from the video. That
Yes.
sadly, we're not allowed to share anymore.
I know. The moment I saw the dress, I googled that video. It took me a bit of time, but I found it somewhere in the dark web.
For
But
somewhere.
in fear of it being removed from there as well, I'm not gonna reveal the location.
Yeah, yeah. It's probably. I think I've seen it on TikTok a couple of times these past two
Yeah.
weeks. Yeah.
I mean, Maxima does seem to have the most fun in this sort of event. And again, like I'm talking about her keeping true to her style and Amalia wearing what she's comfortable in.
Mm.
Ordinarily, you would see for the Brits, for example, that they would kind of both be in this like more of a festive kind of festival kind of garb. But Amalia is happy with what she's wearing. And I think this is a reflection of how they're giving her the space to grow into this role rather than forcing her to, again, just like adapt to what's expected of her.
Honestly, I feel like this is kind of what Dutch people want to see of the Dutch monarchy. I feel like, I mean, we constantly compare them to the Brits, but they're obviously the most famous. But also, for example, the Spanish, like Leonor and Sofia, they're constantly wearing these sort of like strict sort of dresses, and it's. I think that Dutch people wouldn't want their royals to wear that kind of stuff and to be this stiff, emotionless robots. We actually really like it when Willem Alexander cries because he's proud of Amalia. That's something that we want to see of them. And in that sense, I think that every monarchy in Europe is a reflection of what their people want to see of their monarchy. And I'm glad that we have that kind of monarchy because I mean, just looking at Amalia, you can see how much happier she's clearly like she wouldn't be happy wearing a stiff dress. No.
Yeah, definitely. And this is really like I think a function of Dutch culture and the expectations of her, which of course we can't really compare to other countries in that sense.
No, 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 definitely not. No.
So from Aruba, the Dutch royal family, they boarded a Dutch Navy ship and they went to Curacao, where they were on the way there. They had a kind of whole display of the exercise that the Dutch Navy is doing in these waters. And then on Curacao, they arrived on the day before, and then their first full day was the King and Queen's 21st wedding anniversary.
Hmm. Has it been that long? I actually remember them getting married quite well.
Oh,
So
wow.
yes, I know. I mean, I was very, very young, but I remember us all like being very excited about her wedding dress and everything. So yeah, I also remember Amalia being born, which also is like crazy seeing her now.
Wow. So, you must remember them kind of really, it's been a part of your life.
Yeah, like I mean, like every person would agree who lives in a monarchy. It's kind of just, they go through these things like births and marriage, and it sort of becomes this national celebration. But in general, I have to add that the Dutch royals are like at the back of everyone's mind on a daily basis. It's not what we talk when we have a coffee or when we go out for drinks. We do not talk about royals. I mean, I do. And people tend to talk about it with me because they're like, how's your TikTok going? How do you feel about it? But yeah, it's not really that discussed. But this Caribbean visit was very much in the news a lot.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Kind of seeing the different views. I mean, I'm Canadian, we have a monarchy, and not
Mm.
really that discussed. And then I live on the West Coast, so really it's not the most kind of looked well upon. But one thing that Canadians, I think, at our last election, the whole thing was that the only thing that all political parties were united was that we don't want to get rid of them. So they're gonna be there. Might as well. People know about them, just don't really talk about them that much.
It's just, I mean, yeah, when it's King's Day and we have an excuse to go and drink and party, then we're all like, happy birthday, Willie. But
Yeah.
like every other day of the year, we're like, yeah, no, we have other things on our mind. But you hear that a lot from people, which is so funny because you go on Twitter and you see like, well, I mean, like Americans having all these bitch fights about the British royal family, and I'm like, not even
Yeah,
British people care this much.
exactly. I mean,
It's
yeah, no
it's
one in a monarchy really cares that much. It's not really a part of their lives. But
I
then
don't know.
other people have such strong opinions on them, and I'm like, not your. It's like we were saying, not your monkeys, not your pussy.
Yeah, look, and it's different, right? If you live in a country that used to be like a British colony or something, then it's definitely 100% different. But yeah, it's we never we never pay attention to the Dutch royals unless, like I said, it's King's Day or I mean, I feel like not even his Christmas speech is watched as much as Elizabeth II's Christmas speech was watched. It's not a
Of
thing.
course. Yeah,
Also,
just a different
also, I have to add, we do not have as many dramatic members. I mean, we don't have an Andrew, we don't have an Harry, thankfully, because it's all fun until the
yeah,
time. So thankfully we don't. We've had our fair share of scandals, don't get me wrong. I mean, Maxima has quite a problematic family, for one. Not sure if you know that, but yeah.
I mean, I was actually thinking about it, how kind of from Prince Bernard, all the kind of matches of the Dutch monarchs have been quite controversial when they marry into the family, but they usually become popular within a few years afterwards. Like Bernard was controversial. Klaus was quite controversial when he
I
got
mean,
married, and Maxima as well.
Bernard's still very controversial. Like I will safely say that he was not a good human being. You know that because he was
Yeah,
married to Queen Juliana, who is Willem Alexander's grandmother, and he did not just propose to her; he proposed to two other women at the same time, and they said no, and Juliana said yes, so he decided to
yes.
marry her.
And then he
He also
cheated on her most of
repeat
their.
repeatedly and had like two other daughters outside of that marriage. And it was just, he also called up like a German newspaper, did an interview about how he thought his wife should abdicate. And like, he was not a good human, but he's been dead for a long time, right? So
Yeah,
yeah, he's kind of gone. I mean, so that's not really discussed anymore. Klaus was very popular. Willem Alexander's dad. He was very sick at the end of his life, but generally really like so he seemed so nice, sort of. So he was very popular, and Maxima is hugely popular. I mean, less so than she used to be after the whole Greece drama, but yeah, when they went on vacation during lockdown. But still definitely one of the yeah, she has everything that Willem Alexander lacks, if you know what I mean.
of course. I mean, they're a perfect pair in that they kind of bring each other together, and they are a complete team and represent the monarch as a whole.
Yeah, and clearly enjoy spending time together, which I think is good because they have to work together a lot. But also, she has really found her way in like with the UN work she does with the UN, and yeah, she's really
Yeah,
taking the role on really well.
I mean, I love Queen Camilla. She's my queen, but I am a bit jealous if you guys are having Queen Maxima, especially because she has a bunch of beautiful jewels and knows how to wear them as well.
See, this is the thing. The British have amazing jewels as well. It's just that they don't share. So there's
Yeah,
like this bunch of stuff that no one ever wears that's just like rusting in like some corner of the vault. Whereas Maxima just, yeah, they constantly use everything and rotate and like, so I'm so excited because Amalia actually said that she loves tiaras and we've already seen her wear quite a few like good pieces.
definitely.
So I can't wait till she starts opening that vault. It's so nice if you have royals who like love experimenting and love playing around. It's yeah, we have a good collection for the small monarchy that we have. We have a very good collection, which is thanks to Anna Paulowna, a Russian, the Russian wife of William II.
Yes, and of Queen Emma, who acquired a lot of things while she was regent.
Yeah, William III bought a lot of stuff for Queen Emma too.
Definitely. Yeah, no, they have an amazing collection, and it's all of the best quality, as we'll discuss in a little bit when we talk
Hmm.
about the sapphires. But on the evening of their second day, there was a dinner to celebrate their anniversary, which had 21 prominent guests, which symbolized their 21st anniversary at a cathedral. So again,
Okay.
kind of interesting fashion. I believe Maxima wore this dress first in Australia, and it's an Australian design. And
Okay.
I remember there was this whole story about how she just randomly walked into a shop and got it rather than it being like coming through some designer.
Maxima, I think she has a pretty expensive closet, to be honest. It's not like Kate's closet or
Oh yeah,
but yeah, she goes to Nathan a lot, which is a Belgian designer. So she has a lot of
Fabienne Delvey, I believe.
custom made stuff from the town. But she,
Yeah.
same as Amalia, she just wears so much color, which for a visit like this is just the right way to go. Yeah.
And then, so kind of on their last day, they began the day at a former plantation where they saw a kind of reenactment of a slave revolt in 1795. And this is again talking about them dealing with this kind of decolonization legacy that they're spearheading in that sense.
I mean, before they went, they already announced that they'd be putting attention, like a big part of the time of this visit into bringing attention and awareness into the education on this whole subject, right? Which is such a big part of the history of these islands. Everyone who lives there pretty much descends from slaves, enslaved. Um, I think you have to. You can't visit these islands and just ignore that. You just can't. So yeah, it's understandable that it's in there. I don't really feel like giving them extra cookie points for doing it because I think like this is they were supposed to, they couldn't have not done it. So
Of
I'm
course, yeah,
happy they, but it makes total sense. It's not a shock to me.
definitely, yeah. And again, I this was actually the first day where I felt that in past couple of days of this tour, I felt Amalia was a bit uncomfortable, but by this point, she was really getting into the swing of things, and I felt much more fine with kind of the tension and the way this tour is going. I was
Yeah,
just
that
like,
makes sense. I think that makes sense. Like the moment you land, you're like, oh God, here I am. Can I please go? I don't want to be here. I imagine that's what she was thinking.
of course.
Then as like every day sort of goes by and you get used to the heat and you realize, hey, everyone here is happy to see me. Yeah, you probably
Yeah.
eventually are like, you know what? This is great. I don't want to leave.
And then by that evening, you can see their tan had developed quite nicely on all three of them, and
A
they attended
tan.
a yeah. So they had a Tamba music concert with carnival performances, and again, very interesting, kind of from a wardrobe perspective, in which it was an evening kind of occasion, one of the more formal events, but really kind of still fun and more climate appropriate.
It must be hard to actually find like proper good outfits for that kind of heat. I mean, just look at Willem Alexander. He looks so overheated. I feel so sorry for him in that regard because he's like he's redheaded. What is he supposed
Yeah,
to? He's probably like internally constantly being like, I can't breathe. But yeah, he's. I think he manages quite well to. No, he doesn't manage to hide it, but he manages to. I don't know, ignore it. I guess.
I think from the first day on, I was talking to a couple of friends about it that he was really wearing his whole like suits and stuff like he would anywhere else. And then this is like the first event where he's wearing a kind of cream suit, and it seems like he's much more climate appropriate, in tune with the ladies, rather than feeling looking like he's very uncomfortable like he has been for the rest of the events.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Willem Alexander's suits most of the time. They just they don't
The
quite
fitting
fit.
is not the best.
No. But I don't know, like it would be I would probably feel more uncomfortable if he would show up tomorrow in a perfect suit. I would be like, this is not you. Change now.
Yeah, he's got
But
a
I
bit of that shabby chic type of look that suits.
exactly. I'm just happy that he seems to have dropped like the red trousers. He used to wear like red or cream trousers, which was at the time super like posh, kind
Oh
of
yeah,
like in a
I
very
remember seeing those. Yeah,
yes, he seems to have dropped those, which good for him. And he
so
looks better since he has a beard too. I feel like the beard
yeah,
makes him more kingly. I do like the lavender blouse. That's nice, I guess. They don't really match
nice.
as see, like they're not like the Brits
Yeah.
who like match their outfits to their partners. I feel like Maxima just shows up in this dramatic great outfit and Willem Alexander is just like, oh, that's nice, honey. And then
Yeah.
they just go.
There's parts of this tour where it's really felt like it's Maxima was the star and the king and Amalia are just accompanying her on this tour.
As it should be.
Should be.
She
I mean,
is
she is the
she
star.
yeah.
No doubt about that.
Yeah, I think Maxima has no trouble being center of attention. And that can
Yeah.
be something that people like to look down on, but let's be honest, for the job that she has,
Yeah.
it works
She's
for
a
her.
queen and she doesn't care if
No,
people.
she's like, I am here and I'm here to entertain you. Let me do that. And then she proceeds to do it. So good for her.
Love her
And
for that.
I honestly, it makes me happy to see her having a good time. I feel like that's, and not everyone has that, right? If I have a good time, I'm not sure if everyone else is like feeling happy because I'm happy. But I'm like, Maxima radiates this kind of enthusiasm that just makes you go like, that's kind of what we, if we see these images of her dancing, everyone's like, haha, look at her, look at Maxima. Sometimes, we call her Max and we're like, oh, Max, she's being silly again. Like that's
I
kind
mean,
of,
my personal nickname for the two of them are Wax and Max. And that's how I refer to them when I'm chatting to people. I'm like, oh, look at what Wax and Max are doing. And
see, that
people,
is such a royal fandom kind of thing because I've never heard Dutch people do them like
really,
that. No, Dutch people don't. It's
I
really,
always feel like it makes the most sense because typing Willem Alexander all the time gets exhausting. And just do Wax.
yeah, no, it's yeah, we call him Willy and Max, and then and then I don't know, Amalia is just Amalia. Her actual name is Katerina Amalia, but honestly, I she's never called Katerina Amalia by no one. I feel like most Dutch people don't know that.
Yeah, I wonder when she becomes queen, what will they? Because right now, I refer to her as the Princess of Orange for most things, but then when she becomes
Yeah,
queen, we'll see what
that's it.
happens.
Because I was
Will she
thinking,
choose
I
both
was
names like her father, or will she's
yeah,
just
yeah,
one of them?
yeah. Because I was talking about this literally yesterday with a friend, and because Willem Alexander was supposed to become Willem the Fourth, and he said so, and he was like a teenager. He said, "Yeah, it seems like a natural thing for me to become Willem the Fourth." And then he became king, and he kind of surprised all of us. He was like, "Yeah, no, that sounds like I'm just a product, or like like one of the cows in I don't know." He compared it and it's really weird. We made fun of him for that, but he was like, "Yeah, so I'm just gonna be King Willem Alexander because that's my name." And I at that time, look, I'm a history buff, right? I was like, "No, that's not. I wanted to be William Fourth," but now I think it's
Yeah,
good. And in the same way, I think Amalia is just gonna be Queen Amalia. I don't see her going Queen Katerina Amalia, as fancy as it sounds, because I think she's gonna be like, none of you know that that is my name, so I'm just gonna go with the name that I know and that everyone knows and that I use. So I'm expecting a
yeah.
Queen.
They don't really have that long legacy of the naming tradition like the Danish do, so they can kind of do whatever they want.
We have such a young monarchy. We're like a little over 200 years old. So that's something that I feel like the Dutch royals kind of just make up along the way. It's
Yeah.
and good for them.
Good for them. They're not overburdened by tradition and all that stuff.
No, honestly, if I could be member of any royal family, probably the Dutch.
Yeah, I for me, I think the Dutch or the Norwegian.
Yeah, oh yeah, the Norwegians are nice too. Yeah, good point.
If that's what one of the things I'm like, if I want to be a prince consort of somewhere, I'd rather be of Norway or
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Definitely not the Spanish or the British. I will stay clear of those.
definitely
Also, not the Belgians, to be honest. Belgians are quite stiff
no.
too.
That's a tinderbox waiting. Yes,
Yeah.
so after a 2 day break, the royals were in Saint Martin, where they arrived. Really, on the first day was from the airport was just focused on the reconstruction of the island after the devastation of Hurricane Irma in 2017, and they had a series of engagements, which were rather than having like an official welcome and that those sorts of events, they really wanted to have this on the focus of their first day.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, makes sense. Again, seems like a logical choice. That's gonna make everyone happy. So if I was planning it, I would have planned this.
I know it's a good like mix of events to keep in
Yeah.
touch. And
Yeah, yeah.
then
I feel like it had a good mix, right? They were
yeah,
definitely, yeah, I agree.
there's a good deal of planning that's went into it. And then that evening there was this Color Me mural route, and then there had a walk on the boardwalk walk with kind of a bunch of performances, singing and dancing. And this is where Maxima brought the massive sapphires from the family collection. These the earrings were made from one of Queen Wilhelmina's tiaras. It was a wedding gift to her and from the Dutch people, and back in 1901, I believe. And she now they broke it up in the 60s. She wears them as earrings, but these are what she usually wears with the big sapphire tiara. But to see her bring them out into what is like on a tour and a kind of sunny Caribbean thing
Rolls with
is
it.
special.
It reminds me a bit of when she went to, oh gosh, how do you call that with the horses in the UK?
Royal Ascot.
Royal Ascot, thank you. And she just wore these gigantic Stuart earrings. And like the British would never. They're like, that's for like a state dinner. We don't do that. We don't
Definitely.
add that kind of diamond to lunch or to Ascot. And Maxima's just like, hi, I'm rich. Look at me.
I don't care.
No,
I'm the queen, and everyone should know by now.
yeah. And she added that huge hat as well. Like, I don't know if you remember, she had this
I
enormous
do
hat.
remember, yeah. The
So
hat and the
extra.
dress.
It's kind of like so, yeah, so
Yeah.
extra.
I remember being so underwhelmed by her look the previous day for the garter ceremony. I was like, this is not Maxima. Like, I wanted her to wear more jewels, and then she brought the Stuart earrings. I was like, yeah, this is Maxima. She was saving it up for
Honestly,
today.
she probably would prefer
Yeah.
to wrap them all around her face if she could. But yeah, I mean, she can honestly, she can pull them up. I feel like there are not sure if Kate could pull off wearing these kind of earrings because she's so much more
This
petite,
sort of massive size, I mean, she
much
never
more
could.
like classic kind of look, right? And
I
that's
mean,
beautiful.
Queen Camilla could, of all people, but I'm not sure any of the other queens but Maxima could.
No, which I mean, it's I think says a lot about her personality. She just has a huge personality. She does.
Yeah, and
No,
Amalia also wore huge earrings, but one of the things I was actually quite surprised by, given how much she's talked about her love of the royal jewel vault, is she didn't really wear any kind of heirloom jewels, and she stuck to kind of more modern pieces.
yeah. I mean, yeah. I don't know why. I thought about that too. I think she's younger, right? And these sort of classic jewelry will look it kind can be a little if you go to a state visit it'll look good on everyone. But I feel like
Yeah,
for just during the day, it fits her style a bit more to have these fresh, young, new, modern kind of. And she brought a nice collection. She had some earrings put in her bag. They look good. She had a lot of them, very big statement kind of pieces, which was fun.
yeah. And I mean, I believe she wore this dress for one of Princess Ingrid Alexandra's kind of private birthday party after the big banquet. So it's nice to see her kind of recycling her gowns as well.
I guess. Yeah, I don't remember her wearing that, but yeah, I guess. I
Yeah.
she also I do know that she rewore the like this trouser suit, pantsuit, that she wore on King's Day, I think last year. She also brought that back.
Yes.
So,
Yes, that
yeah.
was the one she wore in Aruba. So yeah. And
Yeah.
then we were just talking about the Stuart diamonds, and I haven't seen a clear enough picture, but I believe she's wearing the smaller diamonds from the tiara as earrings on the next evening when they attended a dinner with the governor.
I yeah, is she? I do recognize this dress. I think she's owned this dress for a couple of
She
years.
wore this for her 40th birthday portraits, I believe,
Okay.
uh, Maxima. And then the earrings are the Stuart, but I haven't really seen a clear enough picture, but those are the only ones that are big enough. But I
So
don't believe she's worn the smaller diamonds as earrings yet. She's only ever worn the kind of the big ones, and then the two of the small ones. I think these are the third iterations of those diamonds.
okay, okay. Yeah, it
Let's make
looks
good
she'll
use out of that tiara.
yeah, look, this is the thing. Like we have all of that in the vault. If I can't look at it in a museum, I want them to wear it. Because that
Course.
also is like a waste of, either wear it, put it in a museum, or sell it. Like I don't hide it.
Don't hide it in a vault for 80 plus years.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm just noticing that Amalia is wearing a pretty big emerald ring as well in her finger.
Oh, right. Yeah. I think we've seen her wear that one before, haven't we? Okay, so
Yes, I
she
remember reading
wear
about it.
some. She did wear
Yeah.
some jewelry then.
And in the daytime, they visited Fort Amsterdam. They had a meeting with members of parliament and visited a residential facility and science fair. But I'd like to point out Maxima's big tanzanite earrings, which is something I wrote an article about a couple of years ago. And apparently, she also wore the ring during the trip, and people were really kind of freaking out about it. Oh, she got a new ring or something. But turns out she's been wearing it for years, and no one really knew that.
Okay. I haven't seen that. I do know that, well, she wears her engagement ring every day with the
Oh
orange.
yeah.
And if maybe, I don't know if you're into like the jewelry, but she also has this bracelet that she pretty much wears every day.
Yes,
How
her diamond. I believe it's her the one with the lettering on it.
Yeah, but it has A's in it, I think, for like
Yes.
the A team, as I like to call them, the three girls, but also has their birthstones in it. She wears those two things and her wedding ring every
Every
day.
day, which is really nice, and it's a decent amount of diamonds in that bracelet, which she
Hmm.
wears daily. So good for her. And then their second last visit was when they arrived in Saint Eustatius, I believe. I hope that's the correct pronunciation.
Yeah, but
And
I don't know how you would pronounce it in English. We call
how
it
would you
Saint
pronounce it in Dutch?
Eustatius. Saint
That's
Eustatius, but yeah, I think Saint Eustatius is actually pretty good. I would probably pronounce it like that in English. So let's go with it.
Yeah, so they had just a day-long visit, and they saw the historical center. They addressed the past of slavery with a debate with young people, and then they also visited a beach and a community garden. But my favorite event, which is not included in the slides for those watching on YouTube, was this kind of dance performance that they attended, and Maxima seemed to be enjoying herself from that.
Hmm. See,
I'm not sure if you've seen the videos for that, but it seemed like she was very popular there.
I haven't, but I do like my eyes just go to these earrings. It's like they were both like, shall we do it? Yeah, let's do it. Let's bring out the
Yes.
ones. And they were both like, let's who can find the biggest earring? But they're
Like,
both like,
where else can they wear these? So I'm with it.
that's true. That's true. And let's okay, moment of I want to say moment of silence, but moments of appreciation for the fact that Maxima can actually pull off orange because that's our national color, and obviously their last name because they're like the dynasty is called Orange Nassau, Oranje Nassau. She can actually wear orange. Like that is such a she must be so relieved that she can.
I know. So for her to do it, I mean, she loves great doing it. And then I'll send you the video afterwards. But she
Please
really seems
do.
to have such a fun time. And I think, in my opinion, this was Maxima's best outfit of the tour so far. So
My favorite I think is the blue one with the blouse thing and the earrings. But that's kind of because that fits my style.
yeah.
I'm more of the neutral look, which isn't
I
Maxim.
mean, I would. I'm not sure if you have like a whole like what the parliamentary structure on this, but I like when the late Queen used to visit the Caribbean. She used to open parliaments in evening gowns and tiaras and stuff in the middle of the morning. So I really think that if they're going to kind of Caribbean territories, they should kind of do that, and that's what would be my ideal Caribbean tour. But I think that's probably not the most PC thing to happen these days.
I mean, the municipalities definitely don't have a parliament because they share our parliaments. And
Of course.
I gotta be real honest, I don't know about the other ones. But opening parliament in general isn't really something our king does. He opens the governmental year, Prinsjesdag. I don't know if that says something to you, which is when
Yes. The Princess Day, yes, I know the whole ceremony, yeah. In
they
February.
so that's what he does, but that's not the same as opening parliament because he
Yes.
never goes to the parliament. He's not part of
He
parliament.
just gives the speech to them. The budget speech.
Yeah, the budget speech. That speech, that's true. Because that's the after the summer break, basically. Like our parliament has their summer break, and then he opens the new year by announcing all the
Third
plans.
I believe third Thursday or the third Tuesday of every September.
Yeah,
One.
it's the third Thursday of September.
Yeah. So it's been one of those things on my calendar. And I remember when I used to be in school, like I remember on those days, I used to be on the way back home from school. And I used to look, oh, what's Maxima worn? And I remember, I think it's 2015 when she wore that amazing gown inspired by the room in their palace. And that was, I think I chatted to everyone about that. And they're like, you must be crazy on
Oh,
school
is that
bus.
a battle one? Yeah, no, she tends to looks really good during those.
Yeah.
I used to live in The Hague, which is
Wow.
where they live. So I've actually I would go and see the carriage and everything, which is just so much fun.
Did
Yeah.
they still use the gold carriage back
No,
then?
no, it's in a museum. Yeah, yeah, I have seen it out. When I lived there, because I've lived there for 6 years, I think. So the first year that I lived there, they used it. Honestly, I think the year after that it went because they sort of repaired it.
Yes.
because it's really old. Honestly, it's not that pretty. It's really kind of like, come on, this is too much. It's very gold, and I don't know if you've heard, but there's been a lot of controversy about um
Yes.
yeah,
And they
they
won't be using it
being
for the time being.
the first article that I wrote when I became a royal correspondent, which I did for I interned at a royal intern, um, was about that carriage, and
Oh,
the
really?
comments that that article got, I was traumatized. I was like, never mind. I'll just not talk anymore. And it wasn't even an opinion piece. It was just about this is the history of the golden carriage. But it's kind of, yeah, it's a huge debate. A lot of people want it gone, and a lot of people don't want it gone. I think I'm not expecting to see it back.
Yeah, I think it's good that they're kind of responding to public opinion on this rather than kind of going ahead with it.
Honestly, I feel like William Alexander has this very clear vision of like, well, not vision, but like he realizes that, okay, maybe a lot of people will think it's a good idea now, but in 10, 20 years, most people will agree that that carriage is just not done. And with that in the back of his mind, he's like, let's just put this away.
Make it easier for all of us. Otherwise, there's a debate every budget day.
Yeah, just put it in a museum.
Yeah.
Which, yeah.
I mean, I was lucky enough to see the British Golden Carriage last year during the Platinum Jubilee pageant when it came out for a bit. And it was kind of one of those things where we were all talking about, oh, how it's such a pity it hasn't been used in all these years. And there's a bit of debate along with kind of the symbolism of that as well. But I think with carriages and stuff, it's good to see them being used for kind of their purpose, but also one should really realize with artifacts that you need to appreciate the sentiments of all different. Like I have come from a country, another Commonwealth country, my roots, which was colonized by the British, and we have very kind of different opinions on the Kohinoor diamond. And it's kind of a similar thing. Should it be used? Should not be used? And I feel that's a debate that the Dutch are kind of handling much better rather than just ignoring it and
The
no idea.
British, which is never a good thing to do. I feel like it was they removed it because they wanted to restore it, which was a good excuse to then kind of see what the public debate would do. And I feel like they just kind of watched that public debate unfold and then
Yeah,
decided,
phased it out in that sense.
yeah, and then they were like, you know what, we're gonna put it in a museum. But yeah, the Dutch royals don't ignore these debates, which is already a huge, much better
It's quite
than
admirable.
honestly, like, I mean, I'm not from India or any other country that puts a claim on the Kohinoor, but I quite strongly feel like it's gonna be such a mistake if Camilla is gonna wear that during the coronation. Like, putting my own emotions and feelings aside, because I'm not from one of those countries, so I can't speak for these people, but kind of seeing what people say and the history behind it, like, come on, it would be such a mistake.
Yeah,
So, very interested to see what they're gonna do.
exactly.
Hope.
Yeah. And just so we can end this on, so after St. Martin, the Dutch royals were in Curacao or in Sabah, where they had a series of engagements. And just one day, they visited a couple of villages, attended a football match, and saw the construction of a new harbor, which is kind of the final engagement of their tour before they had that press conference that we were talking about at the beginning of the episode.
Yeah. Yeah, they always end these kind of visits, any kind of visits, any kind of tour with a press conference. So that was to be expected. But yeah, so Amalia she spoke about the well, she literally said like I'm struggling, which I think is anyone it's a good example to set that you can just say that, but also for her to share it, I feel like has a kind of strong message to it.
Definitely. I think it's really admirable of her to kind of be open about her struggles in a sense where even though she's done such an amazing job, this has been on the back of her mind for this sort of time.
Yeah, I when I heard that she was coming on this trip, like the first thing I thought was I was gonna be hopefully it's just gonna be nice for her to just get away from all of that. And I hope that that is what it was. And she said it was, so that's good. Yeah. And she was super enthusiastic about the fact that she got to free this turtle. I don't know if
Yeah,
you see
I saw
that
the
was
footage
just
of that.
like I mentioned before, like I just see Amalia and I'm like, same age as my little sister, and when she was so excited about this turtle, I was like, look at you, you're still a kid, you know, and it's good that people just remember that even though she's 18, she's a teenager. And yeah, it's good that she still gets to be that even when she's freaking turtle, you know.
Yeah, definitely. So what were your kind of closing thoughts on this tour?
I'm just happy it went well. Like it would have sucked if it didn't. So it's and it was kind of everything that I expected it to be. Like it always looks so much fun, and it makes me want to visit the Caribbean. And I feel like we have to understand that with these tours are for the people in these countries, not for us, not for royal watchers, not for royal Twitter, not even for Dutch people really. They're from the people who live in the on these islands, and they want to show these three people, but also the outside world. What is this island? What can you do here? And I feel like the main idea behind it is also just to be like, this is what we are. It's not just beaches, it's also people, and it's not just slavery, it's also other, you know, it's a community and it's a beautiful, beautiful place. And they always just make me want to vacation there, which honestly I think is the idea behind it. So
Definitely. Yeah, no, thank you so much for kind of sharing your thoughts with us. Where can everyone find you on social media?
Brigitte Marie on TikTok. Same I think on Instagram and Twitter. So check it out.
Wonderful. And we'll have all the links included in the descriptions on all of our streaming platforms, on the Royal Watcher website, and also on YouTube. Thank you so much.